Have you ever felt like life keeps throwing obstacles your way? Not because you're weak, but because something inside you isn't anchored yet. Let me tell you something the Stoics understood long before us. You don't need to control the world to feel powerful. You just need to control four things: your mouth, your mood, your money, and your mind. That's it. Not your job, not your past, not your partner, not even the chaos around you. Because if even one of those four, your words, emotions, finances, or thoughts, gets out of control, life will remind you who's really in charge. And the reminder, it won't come gently. It shows up in broken trust, missed opportunities, sleepless nights, or emotional spirals that make you feel like you're losing yourself. Transition. Story-driven insight. The truth is, most of us aren't living, we're reacting. We're reacting to bad moods, to bills, to triggers, to what someone said online. And in that constant reaction mode, we lose sight of something deeper, our own agency. Freedom isn't about doing whatever you want. Freedom is about not being ruled by what doesn't serve you. It's the power to pause instead of lash out, to walk away instead of chase, to choose peace over noise and purpose over impulse. Personal call, inner reflection. Ask yourself this: if you could master just these four things, your mouth, your mood, your money, and your mind, what kind of life would unfold? What kind of person would you become? The Stoics didn't chase control over others. They practiced control over self. And that's what we're here to explore in this video. Not motivation, but a manual on self-mastery. Let me ask you something. Have you ever said something in a moment of frustration and then immediately wished you could take it back? Not because it wasn't true, but because deep down, you knew you didn't need to say it. That's the power of words. And that's the danger of them, too. You see, words don't have bones, but they break trust. They burn bridges. They kill opportunity quietly, instantly, and sometimes forever. Story, emotional illustration. There was a man, reliable, consistent, respected. He spent 7 years building trust at his company. He wasn't the loudest in the room, but when he spoke, people listened. Until one day something changed. A younger colleague was chosen to present a strategy, one that this man had contributed to behind the scenes. And during the meeting in front of the entire leadership team, he snapped, interrupted, raised his voice. Frustration leaked into his tone. Anger coated his words. He was right. But in that moment, it didn't matter. From that day on, people didn't see the same man. They saw someone unstable, emotional, reactive. His ideas were still good, his work ethic unchanged, but his voice, just that one moment, had rewritten his entire reputation. Reflection. Bring it home. You can win the argument and still lose the war. You can speak the truth and still destroy your credibility, because it's not just what you say, it's how, when, and why you say it. The Stoics understood this deeply. Words are not weapons to wound. They are tools to build, clarify, and guide. But in the wrong hands or at the wrong time, they do more harm than good. Marcus Aurelius once said, "Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one." The wise don't speak to prove. They speak to understand, to reveal clarity, and most importantly, they know when to wait. Modern contrast, how the world works today. Now, let's fast forward to today's world. Everyone's reacting, everyone's interrupting, correcting, expressing, venting. We've confused volume with value, noise with strength. But real power, it's when someone walks in and says less, when their words feel measured, earned through silence, experience, and control. In a culture addicted to noise, discipline is magnetic. Personal reflection. Invite introspection. Think back. When was the last time you said something out of anger to a partner, a friend, a coworker? You probably apologized. Maybe they forgave you. But that little voice inside them, the one that whispers, "So that's what they really think of me," that voice doesn't forget. You can't unsay it, and sometimes even forgiveness can't fully rebuild what was lost. Deeper insight. Words reflect your inner world, but here's where it goes even deeper. Your words don't just affect others, they shape you. What you say to others is a mirror of how you think, and what you say to yourself in your head. When no one's around, that becomes the reality you live in. So when you're about to snap, gossip, complain, ask yourself, is this necessary? Is this constructive? Am I adding light or just more noise? Because you won't be remembered for how loud you spoke. You'll be remembered for whether your words meant something or meant nothing at all. Control your mouth, not out of fear, but out of strength. Speak less, mean more. Let your silence speak louder than most people's shouting ever will. Because in a world that's constantly reacting, restraint is rare, and rare things are valuable. Let me ask you something you may have never really sat with. What if your greatest enemy wasn't out there in the world, not your boss, not your past, not even your current struggle? What if the real enemy lives between your ears? Your mind isn't just a space for thought. It's the battlefield where every part of your life is either shaped or sabotaged. And if you don't take control of it, then fear will disguise itself as logic. Assumptions will parade around as awareness, and emotion will masquerade as truth. There's a man I knew, intelligent, experienced, capable. He got laid off from a job he'd held for years. But that's not what broke him. It wasn't the loss of income or the title. It was that his mind collapsed long before anything else did. He stopped applying. He told himself no one was hiring, that he was too old, that he wasn't what the market wanted anymore. His friends sent job leads, he ignored them, not because they weren't real, but because his thoughts convinced him they weren't meant for him. And that's how most people lose, not in action, but in thought long before failure ever touches the real world. The Stoics saw this clearly. Epictetus said, "It's not things that disturb us, it's our judgment about things. It's not the layoff, it's the meaning you attach to it. It's not the breakup, it's the story you tell yourself after. It's not the challenge, it's the lens you use to look at it. Your mind doesn't reflect the truth of the world. It reflects what you choose to focus on. And in today's world, we're constantly feeding our minds garbage. Scroll through any feed, drama, outrage, gossip, fear-driven headlines, endless comparisons. We binge anxiety like it's entertainment. Then we wonder why we can't sleep, why we feel stuck, why we lash out, why everything feels like too much. It's simple. You're treating your mind like a trash bin and expecting peace. Here's the thing. Negative thoughts, when left unexamined, don't stay still. They spread like mold in a dark room. You start thinking, "I can't do this." Soon it becomes, "I'm not good enough." Then nothing ever works for me. And eventually, why even try? One seed of fear can grow an entire forest of paralysis if you let it. But here's the good news. You're not powerless. You just haven't trained your mind yet. The Stoics didn't have Instagram, but they had practices that work just as well, if not better, today. Let me share a few with you. Journaling, not to write your feelings out like a diary, but to challenge your thoughts. Ask, is this fear or fact? Is this my truth or just today's mood? Speaking meditation, not to empty your mind, but to observe it without attaching to every thought. Just because a thought appears doesn't mean you need to believe it. Reading deep, disciplined ideas. Fill your mind with timeless wisdom, not surface-level content. Read what makes you think, not just react. Solitude. Silence the noise of the world so you can actually hear yourself. Sometimes we don't even know what we think because we've been too busy hearing everyone else. Here's something most people don't realize. Not every thought deserves your trust. Not every emotion is accurate. When anxiety hits pause and ask, is this the truth or just old trauma speaking? When fear rises, ask, is this danger or just discomfort? A Stoic doesn't deny emotion. He just doesn't let it write the whole story. Your mind is a gate. Whatever you allow in shapes everything else. Your choices, relationships, habits, even your identity. You want to change your life, then change what you allow into that gate. Protect it like your peace depends on it, because it does. You don't control the weather. You don't control the waves, but you do control the rudder and your mind. That's the rudder of your life. Train it, guard it, steer it, because if you don't, someone else or something else will. The Stoic man doesn't wake up in a quiet world. He wakes up in the same chaos as everyone else. The difference, he chooses what enters his mind. He chooses where his attention goes, and most importantly, he doesn't let passing thoughts create permanent identities. That's what mastery looks like, and it starts with one decision: to no longer be a slave to your thoughts. Let me tell you about a man who didn't lose a job because he lacked skills, or because someone sabotaged him, or because the opportunity wasn't real. He lost it because he walked into the interview with a storm raging inside him. That morning he spilled coffee on his shirt. Then he hit traffic. Then the receptionist made him wait 20 minutes with no explanation. By the time he sat across from the hiring manager, his tone was sharp, his smile forced, and his energy off. He didn't say anything wrong, but everything about him felt closed, defensive, disconnected. They never called him back. And the worst part, he never even realized it wasn't his resume that failed him. It was his emotions. Let me ask you something. Have you ever had one bad moment ruin your entire day? A snide comment, a traffic delay, a message left on read. Suddenly, everything feels heavy. Your mood leaks into your tone, your choices, your interactions. And by evening, you're wondering, why did I let that one thing control me? Here's the truth. Your emotions are like weather systems. They pass through, they change form, they come and go. But you wouldn't cancel your whole day just because it's raining, would you? So why cancel your peace just because a moment felt wrong? The Stoics understood this. Emotion is human, it's natural. But what matters most is not whether you feel something, it's what you do when you feel it. You see, when you don't control your emotions, they begin to write your story for you. They choose your words, they pick your tone, they drive your decisions. And slowly, without realizing it, your entire life becomes a reaction to things that don't deserve that kind of power. So how do we reclaim control? How do we move from reaction to reflection? Here are 3 Stoic tools that work even in modern life. The moment the mood hits, give it a name. I feel frustrated. I feel unseen. I feel anxious. Why? Because naming it creates distance, and in that distance, clarity is born. You are not your emotions. You are the observer of your emotions. Pause and ask, what would the stronger version of me do right now? Would that version lash out or breathe? Would they send the angry text or wait an hour? The higher version of you already exists. You just have to make space to let it answer. You can't hold resentment and gratitude in the same hand. So when your mood starts pulling you down, interrupt it. Find one thing, just one, that you're grateful for. Anchor to it. Because gratitude is emotional gravity. It brings you back to earth. Here's a powerful truth you probably weren't taught. Feeling something doesn't mean you have to act on it. Just because you're triggered doesn't mean you're right. Just because you're sad doesn't mean you're broken. Just because you're angry doesn't mean someone deserves your wrath. Emotions are signals, not commands. They're meant to inform, not control. And the Stoic doesn't ignore emotion, he observes. It filters, it learns from it. Then he chooses action, not reaction. Let me leave you with this. If you don't control your emotions, they will control your voice, your relationships, your future. And most of the time, the damage they cause can't be undone with just, "I'm sorry." That's why we don't chase perfect days. We chase emotional mastery. We train ourselves to stay calm when it storms, to smile without a reason, to choose principle over impulse, because when you can hold your center, the world feels a lot less threatening, and you become a lot more powerful. Control your emotions, not to become cold, but to stay warm when life turns cold around you. You've seen this story before, maybe in your feed, maybe in your own mirror. A guy shows off a luxury car he can't afford, wears designer clothes bought on credit, posts smiling photos from an expensive dinner, but behind the scenes he's drowning. His rent is late, his credit cards maxed out, his anxiety through the roof. Why? Because in a world obsessed with appearance, we've forgotten how powerful it is to simply be stable. Here's a hard truth we don't say out loud. Most people aren't trapped by money, they're trapped by their lack of control over it. It's not the income, it's the impulse. The "I deserve this," the "I'll deal with it later," the "treat yourself even when you're not okay." We think we're buying happiness, but often we're trading peace of mind for 30 seconds of escape. The modern world doesn't enslave you with chains. It enslaves you with monthly payments, car notes, credit cards, subscription after subscription, and every single one of them chips away at your ability to breathe. You can't build inner peace when you're building debt. You can't build confidence when every purchase is a performance, and you'll never build freedom if you're selling your future for your next dopamine hit. The Stoics didn't talk about money the way we do. They didn't obsess over getting rich or flexing power. Instead, they taught this: wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants. Epictetus, let that sink in. Real wealth isn't about how much you own. It's about how little owns you. So here's a question that might sting a little. Are you spending money, or are you spending your peace of mind and calling it joy? Do you buy things to build your future or to soothe your wounds in the present? If your mood controls your money, you're already broke no matter your income. Let's be honest. How many times have you shopped out of boredom or frustration? How often have you clicked buy now? Not because you needed something, but because you felt unseen, unimportant, or out of control. That's not power. That's escape. And escape disguised as spending is one of the quietest addictions of our generation. Stoic shift, self-control over self-indulgence. The Stoic man doesn't seek wealth to impress. He builds wealth to protect. He saves not out of fear, but out of foresight. He avoids debt not because he's cheap, but because he knows that interest doesn't just cost money. It costs mental clarity. He doesn't chase pleasure now because he understands something deeper. You don't rise to the level of your dreams. You fall to the level of your discipline. So next time you're about to spend, pause. Ask yourself, does this support the person I'm trying to become? Is this a reward or a reaction to something I'm avoiding? Will this matter in 5 years, or is it feeding a 5-second emotion? Your wallet doesn't just reflect your finances. It reflects your values, your pain, your growth, your future, because every dollar you spend is a vote for the life you're choosing. You want to feel powerful. Then start where most people won't. Budget not to restrict joy, but to protect your freedom. Save not to hoard, but to never become a beggar for help or approval. Spend with intention, not emotion, because true wealth isn't about being rich. It's about not being owned by banks, by bills, by ego, or by insecurity. Let me leave you with this. Most people want freedom, but what they're really chasing is permission. Permission to indulge without consequence, to react without reflection, to spend without restraint. But real freedom, it begins with self-mastery. There is no stoicism without self-reliance, and there is no self-reliance if you're at war with your own wallet. So control your money, because money that's controlled becomes a tool, but money that controls you becomes a cage. You don't need to be rich. You need to be free. And that starts when you finally stop outsourcing your discipline and start building quiet power one choice at a time. Most people say they want freedom. They talk about it, post about it, dream about it. But look closely, and you'll realize something heartbreaking. Most people aren't chasing freedom. They're chasing permission. Permission to indulge without guilt. Permission to react without consequence. Permission to avoid discipline and still feel powerful. But here's the truth that no one teaches. True freedom isn't about doing whatever you want. It's about becoming someone who doesn't need to be rescued from themselves. We live in a world where rebellion is glamorized. Live fast, say what you feel, spend it all. You only live once. But what if the most radical thing you could do is to become stable, to speak with intention, to think with clarity, to feel with balance, to spend with purpose, to walk into chaos and remain unshaken because you've already won the war inside? People often misunderstand Stoicism. They think it means being cold, emotionless, distant, but they're wrong. A Stoic isn't numb. A Stoic feels everything but gives control to nothing that doesn't serve the higher self. They don't shut down their hearts. They just refuse to hand over the keys every time life gets messy. So, let's return to the core, the four silent forces that shape your destiny. Your mouth, master your words, and you build trust. You don't just avoid fights, you earn respect. You speak when silence no longer serves, and your voice carries meaning. Your mind, master your thoughts, and you find clarity. You don't spiral. You don't self-sabotage. You question your fears instead of following them. You choose what gets to live rent-free in your head. Your emotions, master your emotions, and you win battles before they start. You feel anger without exploding. You feel sadness without collapsing. You move from principle, not from impulse. Your money, master your money, and you no longer live in quiet desperation. You stop being a slave to impulse. You build freedom not to show off, but so no one can take your dignity. There is a version of you, calm, clear, powerful, who lives on the other side of your discipline. He doesn't crave attention. He doesn't beg for love. He doesn't overspend, overreact, or overexplain. He just is, quietly, confidently, free. Not because the world around him is easy, but because his inner world is no longer fragile. So let me ask you, are you controlled by your mood? Or do you respond with clarity? Do your words reflect your wisdom? Or your wounds? Are you leaking power every time things don't go your way? Is your money building your future or burying your peace? If even one of those questions made you pause, good. That means you're awake. That means you're ready. Let me tell you something no one ever told us growing up. Discipline is not a cage. It's the key. It doesn't restrict you. It unlocks you. It frees you from chaos, impulse, insecurity, and the need for constant validation. And when you master yourself, you no longer chase peace. You carry it with you in the way you speak, the way you think, the way you feel, the way you spend, the way you walk through life. Inner freedom is the road no one can walk for you, not your partner, not your mentor, not your friends. This journey, it's yours, and it starts not with motivation, but with ownership. Own your mind, own your mood, own your money, own your words, and watch how the world begins to bend, not because you forced it to, but because you finally aligned with who you were meant to be. You don't need to control the world. You just need to control you, because the man who masters himself can't be mastered by anyone else. This is Think Stoic, and your next chapter starts right here.